right, we're recording.
Yep.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, good, perfect. So it is 12 o'clock on May 10th, 2018. We do have a quorum, so we call this meeting to order. If you will please stand for the
They're in the other room.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
So we have one item on the consent agenda. We have the minutes from our March 1st meeting. We received those via email. Are there any questions about the March 1st meetings or comments? We don't have any questions or comments about the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes March 1st meeting?
I'll make that.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Approving? Opposed? Thank you. Who's taking minutes? Jane? Okay, got it. So you got the. Then we have updates to the special occasion policies, request to adopt the updates. Jayla?
So on the, I'm going to say I don't know much about SPED in general, but our special education coordinator is the one who reviewed the documents. These documents are directly from the Charter Association as part of the modules that we purchased. And basically these reflect updates that were made by the legislation. And so the charter sends us the modules and says, here are the new updated templates. And so then she reviewed them, she went through, and she's the one who highlighted all of the areas for you to see what things have changed. And then these would be the new policies of the district. As you're aware, special education has very little wiggle room and leeway for interpretation. The law is the law, and you have to provide services based on federal regulations. So most of everything that you will have seen will change is really nothing that we can bend to our liking. Really it's just a matter of she looked through and make sure there's nothing in there that's of concern. And so she provided them to me to present to you today. She wanted to be here, but because of the change in date, she had a training to attend today, or a conference, I think, that she couldn't be here.
So special ed is the one area that when we look at comparing traditional ISDs and charter schools policies, this is the one area that there is, again, little or no difference. What traditional ISDs are held accountable for to support special ed students is their resource allocations. They're directly in line with the same expectation that a charter school has.
Yeah, so really there's, if you've read over the documents and glanced at the areas that were highlighted, those are the things that are changing. And so by adopting it, the date of the approvals will change. You know, typically you have to go through every single one and do an approval. It's up to you how you want to do that, considering there are so many. If there are any specific concerns on a specific document, you know, maybe we can address those.
And
Review these with her.
Right.
Again, there was no wiggle room. Everything that was highlighted were areas that are required by the law. So there's not really a opportunity for the board to say, no, we're not going to support that policy change. The policy change was mandated by law.
Unless there's anything that you want to speak to specifically on one of the, I don't even know how many there were, 10 or so documents.
Yeah, we have them up. If anybody has any questions over the specific area, we can pull that one up.
Are there any questions?
Could you just put the list up on screen so that we can see the list of what we're about to, I assume, approve?
Me too.
have any questions. It made sense to me. Are there any questions from the board? You have a chance to review them.
Yeah, I didn't have any questions.
So I think because there's 17 of them, I think it'd be easier to say, we make a motion to approve all of the 17 changes rather than going one by one for the special location policies. That's what I suggest.
I make that motion.
Thank you.
I need you to, since we need you to say.
Okay, so I move that we approve A through Q as a group.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor of approving the special education updates to policy?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. The next one is the request adoption of updated wellness policy.
Okay, so basically on the wellness policy, really nothing in the actual wellness policy itself changed. It really, the main item was we just, first of all, it has to be updated because we have to adopt it annually with the new dates. But then also we're required to do a triennial review before we do our food service application each year. And so this is 3 years ago, I believe, since it was last adopted. And in the process, it's actually way down. The main thing is we changed the formatting. It used to have that legal local, like the ISD policies. It didn't really go with what we had. It was kind of a template that we, I don't want to say stole, but we formatted off of another district, because the last time it was adopted was when we started our food program, and we didn't really know much at the time of how things needed to run and what was required.
And Jamie, that was also prior to the Texas Charter School Association developing these modules,
Yes,
if you
it was
recall.
prior to
Yeah.
modules, and it was the first year we did the food service, and it was in the summer, right before the school was getting ready to start. And so we essentially took another school district's template and we followed their legal local. And so if you'll notice on the right hand side, that's the beginning of the document. We just changed the headings to where it doesn't say legal, local, and it just basically gives the outline, and we changed the footer a little bit. But the actual content itself, nothing is changing. We completed a review. We looked at TDA policies. We looked at our adopted health policies that y'all have adopted over the last few meetings to make sure that nothing was conflicting, and there was really no need for change. We just kind of updated it, and we're asking you to renew it again so that we can do our TDA application in July. We do renew the application to TDA, Texas Department of Agriculture, for those of you that might not be familiar. We do renew it each July to be able to do the breakfast program. And so each year we have to provide them with the wellness policy, and then you'll also see the next one we're going to discuss is the asset, and that's also related to food service.
So just to talk about food service to give the board an update, we did look at several options for each of the areas. And when we ran the numbers, it just is not cost effective at this time. The cost that we receive funding and looking at the current breakfast program and trying to subsidize that cost, and then looking at developing a food service program, we would have to have X number of students. We'd have to guarantee the company. A lot of times the companies are very open to supporting a food service program, but they basically say, whether you purchase or you need X number of meals, you have to, in order for us to contract with you, you would have to purchase X number of meals. We just don't have the capacity at this time. It's one of those things I would love to offer our students a hot meal, but financially we're just not in the position. And then another component of that is facilities. Tyler is fortunate that they have an area that all the students can report to, more of a cafeteria area that the students can go to every day. But the other two campuses don't have that opportunity at this time. And so when you start looking at food service regulations, it can become overwhelming. So at this time, we will continue with the same programs that we currently have on all three campuses.
Any other questions about the wellness policy? Do you have any questions? Do we have a motion to approve the wellness policy?
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second? Thank you. All in favor of approving the adoption of the updated wellness policy?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. request adoption of updated, HA.
Basically, it's the foods yeah. Really, again, same idea. No content is actually changing. Really, the big change here is the year on the first page, the 1819, and the fact that we did review it to make sure that it's still in line with TDA policies and any new regulations that they put in place since then. The bulk of the document, I mean, I hope you didn't read the whole entire thing, surely, but 96 pages or less of it, but a lot of it pertains to hot food and preparation in the kitchen and checking temperatures and all of those things, which we don't do. We only do breakfast, and it's grab and go, and it's all prepackaged. So because we have that program, really only a small portion of this plan pertains to us at the time. But we are required to have this plan in place for the entire district in the event that we do have, or we do adopt a lunch program or start preparing food. And then there's also information in there, you know, regarding what they call smart snacks or safe snacks. You know, having parties in the classroom and bringing cupcakes for birthday parties or Valentine's Day or Easter, and having pizza parties and those sorts of things. Selling candy bars on campus. All of that is addressed in here because federal guidelines restrict any food that is presented to a student on campus that is being provided to them. And so even in the classroom, if a teacher brings candy as a reward, that's addressed in here because that's not allowed per federal guidelines. Things regarding like pizza parties and things. There are like waiver days, like you're allowed so many, but they're very limited and they have to be at certain times of the day. Basically from the time school starts until the time school lets out, you're not allowed to do a lot of those types of things. And even like if you had after school events and you had a concession stand, even sometimes those can be limited as well. It just depends on the situation. So all of that is addressed in this plan. Again, we adopted it from a template from another school. And so as we look through it, it all still pretty much pertains. And so we just basically changed the year. And we're asking you to re-adopt it so that we can present it on our application to TDA in July.
Any questions from the board? Do we have a motion to approve the updates?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of approving the updates to the food policy?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Now we'll move on to the request for approval of the 17-18 budget amendment.
Just a second.
Yep.
It's like 90 something pages. Oh, if you want to look at the bottom, scroll through. I made a big packet. All the more reason to know.
These amendments are just accepting some funds that we received and expensing those, and then we had some expenses that we had budgeted in the wrong function, and so we just needed to move the funds to the correct function to cover the expense, to show our expenses where they need to be more accurate. Any questions about this budget amendment?
What was it that came in? Was it the local and state funds
We
or?
had some local funds for donations, and then we had an increase in state funds, and then we also had some federal funds that came in for
Okay.
Title I and IDP.
Those state funds are IMA, right?
Yes.
Or instructional materials allotment is the state funds.
Mhm.
So your federal funding comes, it doesn't come at the beginning of the year, it comes monthly or?
They can look, typically it comes to the beginning of the year, but then I think they look.
We request it from them,
Okay.
so it can come monthly or just whenever I request it, but they do increase it throughout the year sometimes.
And they look at your data and they see that you have more than you thought.
Okay. No, just it. Thank you.
The biggest change is in maintenance, right?
Yes, that was the playground expense. We budgeted under 11, it needed to go under 15.
Yeah, there's some confusion and and we had to do some research on how to address those playgrounds, because in a typical school district, it's different than us because of where it's located in the property that it's put on. So since it's on university property and all that, we had to address where it actually gets put. So she had to do a lot of research to figure that out. And phone calls.
But I hear the kids love the playgrounds.
Any other questions about the amendment? Okay, we don't have any questions. Do we have a motion to approve the request, the amendments for the 17-18 budget?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of approving the amendment? All in favor of approving the amendments?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Request adoption of the 18-19 board meeting dates.
This is just basically setting the schedule for this year. We basically follow the same format as we've had this year, where we skip to the second week in both January and July. Mainly in January because of the finance audit, it just gives them an extra week to get things finalized for us. And then in July, because the 4th of July, that week, typically offices are closed, people are on vacation and stuff. So, but other than that, it basically follows the same format as this year.
Every other month?
Yeah, I think it works best that way.
And so the next meeting, which is July 12th, that would be primarily where we'll adopt the budget for next year. So we'll have that prepared for you to look at.
And are we gonna have a new board member or no? Was there actually-
Yes, that's what we addressed. Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about that. So that's when we,
That would be with the new.
Okay. Any questions? I appreciate the schedule ahead of time, so thank you for that.
And the schedule will be posted on the website. It's required to
Right.
be approved by the board.
Any questions, comments? We have a motion to approve the board meeting dates.
I would like to make that motion.
Thank you, Denny. You want a second?
I desperately want a second.
That one? All in favor of the approving the schedule for the board meetings for next year?
Aye.
Any opposed? Request approval of superintendent to serve on Region 7 Advisory Committee.
So this basically is the request that the board approves each year. It's part of the requirement through Region 7. I serve on the advisory committee, and in the event that we contract services, I'm the one that officially has to approve those services. And so I think it's just their way of centralizing approvals. So all approvals have to go through the person that the board has approved to serve as the ultimate approver for services. To me, it's just it's really a formality that all the education service centers use.
Gotcha.
Any questions? We don't have any questions? Do we have a motion to approve Dr. Simmons?
I'll make that.
We have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor of approving her service as the Region 7 Advisory Committee?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next one is the request for approval of instructional materials allotment and the Teks certification for 18-19.
This document just certifies to, for our instructional materials allotment, just certifies what grades we're going to have next year and what subjects we're going to teach.
So again, another formality by the state. It's just to confirm what grades and what instructional materials and things like that. I'm sure they somehow align this with the use of your instructional funds. So, you know, if they award a district's instructional funds and they see that they only have grades, let's say 6th through 12th grade, but they're buying pre-K material, that's going to be a red flag for the state. So I think going into it, they want to know exactly what grade you're going to be supporting, and then also what subject. So next year is the first year that we'll be able to check K through 12th grade.
Yeah.
First graduating class next year. Exciting.
Any questions about this? Do we have a motion to approve the instructional materials allotment?
Make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Danny? All in favor of approving this document?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. So that's it for the consent agenda and the action items. Now, the superintendent's report.
All right, so the first item we have is our student competitions, and we may jump around. I just want to let the board know we are expecting a visitor to visit today to talk to us about the rebranding and the Innovation Academy. So if Lucas Roebuck joins us, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you come in. Apologize. Lucas, would you like? Oh, I'm sorry, I was turning around. You snuck in behind me.
Which I'm Texas, I ain't the one to pledge.
Yeah.
I don't know it.
So would you like to go ahead and, I know you're on a very tight agenda, it's my understanding. So if you would like to go ahead and present, we'll turn it over to you at this time.
Great. Is this like Chrome take over TV here, or how do I do that? Do you have a projector in to plug in?
Didn't you just have the presentation up?
No.
Oh, I thought.
Is that what you got?
You can just plug in your computer if you want to, if you have to use it.
Or does anyone know how to make this computer connect to the TV? That might
It's
be.
not a TV.
It's right.
Oh, it's a projector, I'm sorry. I see that now. Sorry about that.
I think you just unplug doors and plug this in.
Yeah, well, no, I'm sure I've got to do that. The Apple's in their Apple's great wisdom, they have USB-Cs uniformly instead of having the old HDMI connectors. So I'm looking to see if I have a USB-C to.
Actually, I think that's HDMI.
Oh, I got it right here.
It's a lightning thing. Sorry.
Okay, where's the back? Right there.
He's got that.
He's got it.
Oh, okay.
10 minutes.
That's great.
You say 2 hours?
7 standards. 25 of them, they come out with 20.
Is that an HDMI cable?
We can grab that going.
This is actually a nice cable to have. Display point the main display.
I think that's just.
Yeah, I just see HDMI.
That's a good question.
Well, I'll go ahead and start talking about grabbing that. So just some background. So I came in I started in August as the vice president of marketing, and I'm really happy to be here. And I'm really pleased. One of the things the president directed me and said, hey, he was interested in having as we kind of refocus and retooled our overall marketing initiative at the university, particularly as we recognize the relationship of the Innovation Academy as part of the thing. Particularly as we recognize the Innovation Academy as an important part of the College of Education Psychology. That we said, hey, we want to make sure that we are aligning our efforts. And more important, it's important for us to figure out what are the marketing needs of the Innovation Academy, and we want to come in and support that, enhance what's going on. Excuse me. So I was particularly excited to be involved because I do have 2 children who attend here. We're probably going to somewhere, I guess. School out? No. So who are here now, okay, so anyway, so I was particularly excited to be here, and so kind of what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about with the idea that the institution is creating new branding, and so what do we need to do to come in and help enhance the branding and the marketing of the Innovation Academy. And one thing that I want to say, and I may offend some people in this room, but I think currently the quality of the product is much better than the quality of your brand. So I think the quality of and particularly your visual brand. So I don't think the visual brand reflects some of you guys, and I apologize, some of you guys were involved in the creation of that current visual brand in my professional opinion. So I think we can actually really want to take the brand quality and help elevate it so it matches the quality of the product. And I can speak for the quality of the product because I know my two children have been here, and I speak for my daughter Maggie, who her reading and writing competency, which she has struggled with, it just blossomed here. My son Max also just really loves it, and I feel like he's had great opportunities to grow and so forth. And so I really do feel like that. So I have a personal investment in it, but also I think that we can elevate the brand. So 3 things that as I think about kind of what we do in marketing. And one of the things I think is really important is as we partner and engage with the Innovation Academy is to know that the purpose of marketing is not for its own sake, right? So everything that we do in marketing, we have to say, hey, how is this supporting the mission? And sometimes it seems self-explanatory, but a lot of times you get marketing people are going off and doing all these crazy activities, and at some point you have to say, hey, what does that have to do with anything? Does that really help us get to our? Are you just making new brand standards just to have people jump through hoops just to do crazy stuff? And it's really keeping us from doing our focus, which is educating the children and sending them on great trajectories for life. So the second thing is that I think really important is that I really believe that unlike say, I know a little bit about education because I did undergraduate work. Actually, I did all my undergraduate work for secondary ed English, and then I never student taught one way led to another. But so I've taken ed tests and measures, ed psych, development of exceptional child, that sort of thing. And so I understand that there's actually the science, the pedagogy to education and so forth. It isn't necessarily apparent to everybody. Now, completely conversely, my field actually is very accessible to everyone. Everybody is a consumer of marketing. Everyone has opinions in marketing, and so everyone's a focus group of one, and so everyone's very marketing literate. People in this room, as you think about literacy and marketing literacy, these people, particularly in America, are very literate for marketing. And so one thing that's great for me is that I have this wonderful wealth of people who know what I'm doing, and I try to absorb and take some of that stuff in. And so for me, marketing is simply getting the right message in front of the right people to inspire the right actions. And so one of the things that, as I've been working with Dr. Simmons and Dr. Ross and some others, is to say, well, what are our marketing objectives? Is it enrollment growth? Is it brand awareness? Is it recruitment of quality staff? What are our marketing objectives? So those things to think about. So once we realize what the right actions are, we just got to get the right message in front of the right people. And then finally, and this is something that I think is very, very parallel with the university at large and Innovation Academy. So one of the things before I came here to the University of Texas at Tyler, the president had said he was going to hire an VP of marketing, and there was an interview in the local newspaper with the president. He talked about that, and so some probably very intelligent student, very astute students said, hey, why, ask the question on Twitter, why is the president wasting all this time focusing on marketing? Who cares about marketing? Let's have quality class experiences, what do the students need, and that sort of thing. And so later I had the opportunity to, I didn't just address a specific student, but when I was addressing the Student Government Association and talking about why marketing is important, because I kind of use this analogy. So what is the brand of your college? And I would argue to say even the brand of your K-12 school. Why does it matter? Why does it matter? And to the student, if you go and you say, hey, if I am applying for a job in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I have a degree from, let's just say, I'll say something to offend somebody. Well, I'll just say this. I'll look this up and say, let's say right now, if I'm going and if I'm only interviewing one person, and I have 2 resumes in front of me, okay, and they're otherwise they're equal, they're people just out of college, no experience, whatever, and one person graduated from Harvard, and one person graduated from UT Tyler. Unless I have some connection to UT Tyler, who's going to get the interview? Harvard, because they are the top college brand, the #1 college brand, Harvard University, top college brand. And so branding matters, and obviously there's lots of degrees of variation for it. So it's very important for us that that we take and elevate the college brand and elevate it, because it does help our students. And And so, and branding is more than just visual. Visual branding is part of it, logos and that sort of stuff. Branding is also, even as we're intentional about the experience that we have and that we need brand promise and that sort of thing. So those are the three. So brand is important because in the end, it increases the value of everything. And so some of whose employees? We're employees. So we really don't want you ever to leave. But the idea is that if we increase the brand value of Innovation Academy and someday you decide to run somewhere else in your career, then people say, oh, I want you to come work for me because you work at Innovation Academy. Why? Because you have a good brand. We know that's a good brand. So and those two, think about how does brand impact? It impacts so many things in so many ways. That's why we care about it. That's why we have a vice president of marketing. And that's why we spend time on it, not just because we want to say, just to do fancy commercials and that sort of stuff. So let's talk about specifically about Innovation Academy. And so the president said, hey, Lucas, take a look at that. Talk to leadership over there. We've already had some meetings with some design teams. We've had 2 out of the 3 design teams we met. And let's talk about rebranding the institution. So why are we going to rebrand? So the first thing is because we want to align the Innovation Academy with the university in terms of rebranding. I'm sure you guys have seen now, if you haven't seen already, we're in the process of rebranding. You just have to look at banners everywhere if you're on campus, and it's a big process. It takes some time to get all the rebranding done. Certainly, we're part of that. And so, so in some ways, it just doesn't make logistical sense for you guys. Your previous visual branding was somewhat aligned to the old brand, and so we obviously see that. So that's part of it. So, and then I really feel like, hey, we want to update the look and feel of our branding and how we brand present ourselves, so it matches the professionalism of the program. And again, you could please feel free to pull me aside and argue with me later about it, or give me your critique. But in my opinion, the visual brand right now does not match the professionalism of all the programs. So, and then finally, the one that we'll talk about is brand position. And brand position is really important. It's probably more important even here in Tyler than it is and I'm sure important is Longview and Palestine, where in Palestine you have very few options besides public, basically public. There's not even a private school down there. There might be one private school. So but here in Tyler, if they're playing, it's great. It's great to be a parent here. You have lots of options. You have lots of educational options. So how we brand position ourselves helps us communicate to parents, the right parents, of why they want to be here in UT, why they want to come to UT Tyler. And so that being said, so just you guys have seen this stuff. This is obviously already branding, but let's just get through that here. So three concepts, and then I want to kind of get to kind of the final thing that we're kind of proposing. We're talking about anyway, and so I want to talk about a brand promise and how that works, and we'll think about, I think as we engage with the Innovation Academy and in the future, and we think about marketing, branding, and activities we do, we'll think about a brand promise. And you might be able to tell I enjoy fast food, so I'm kind of an expert in fast food. I'm going to tell you about fast food branding and brand promises. And I want to take 2 fast food places you're probably aware, Chick-fil-A and Taco Bell, right? Chick-fil-A and Taco Bell. Those 2 companies have 2 different brand promises. And when brand promises are met, then the brand value increases. When brand promises are not met, then the brand value fails. And again, we care about brand value because that kid, with their degree, what is it worth? What does it mean? Or if you're going to get a job, what is it worth? What does it mean? And so if you go to Chick-fil-A, they have a brand promise. And their brand promise is that you're going to have consistent quality of food and very high quality of service, right? So if I go into Chick-fil-A and they get my order wrong, or they're rude to me or whatever, then they've broken their brand promise, and their brand value goes down, right? Because that's what they promise. That's what they say. That's what they say who they are. And conversely, if I go to Taco Bell, their brand promise isn't great service. They don't say, hey, we're going to give you great service. You never hear that. They don't say that. They don't even say, hey, we're going to give you, they're going to say, basically their brand promise is really fast and cheap. Is really what it is. And so it's interesting. If you think about, so if I go into Taco Bell and they get my order wrong, I'm like, yeah, I should have expected this, right? It doesn't really downgrade it in my mind. In fact, it does happen a lot. I go to Taco Bell, you can order wrong a lot. So, but it doesn't really lower that. But But you notice if you go to Chick-fil-A and they don't have a value menu at Chick-fil-A. There's no dollar menu, there's no special deals, there's nothing. You know, I can get the calendar once a year, but there's really no special deals at Chick-fil-A. And so again, so their brand promise is one thing, and they have to learn on the brand promise. So the question for the Innovation Academy is, what is our brand promise as we engage, and this mostly in this case to our current students, but also people who are considering coming and engaging with us in the Innovation Academy, whether they're parents and students or other people we engage with. What is our brand promise? What do we expect people to come away with from the experience, right? Some things we think about, obviously, and I don't think we need to define a brand promise here today, but something I'd like for everyone involved in leadership to think about is saying, you know, what are people expecting to get from us when they come? Expecting to get high quality education. They're probably expecting something STEM related, right? They're expecting that my kid's going to be not only very well prepared for college, but they're going to be have a jump start because they're going to have college credit, you know. And so these are things that are part of our brand promise. So again, brand position is again, how does our brand promise relate to the public school? How do it relate to the other charters, right? So if we go out and we have a big poster of a kid playing a violin and another kid kicking a soccer ball as they come to the Innovation Academy, right? And they come here, we're going to break our brand promise, because that's not, you know, if you want the violin, you're going to Cumberland or something, right? And so again, so that's, yeah, so that is sort of brand position and brand promise. And then finally, one last thought before we get into my last point is brand aspiration. And that's really what do we want people to say about us when we're not in the room, right? And really, I would hope that we want people to say, hey, we are the best at what we do, right? We're the top charter school. We're the top, you know, if your kid's interested in going to a four-year institution, you know, then you want to go to us. And so that sort of thing. So again, these are discussions, and the reason why I just throw them out here right now is because what I'm ready to show you and talk about, this is kind of some of the thought process that goes behind. These are the things that we think about on the marketing side. So we said, hey, we need to come up to think about a new name and a new brand for the Innovation Academy. And so where we are right now in that process is there's one proposal that's been floating out there, which honestly has some favorability from the cabinet at the university, and we've already shown it with 2 out of the 3 design groups. They've been favorable to it. The decision's not made yet. The door's not closed. I think if some people say, hey, we don't like this idea, we can look at another idea. There's still someone has another great idea. So I want to show you this idea. I want to be really clear that this isn't like a decision's made idea, but it is kind of a leading candidate right now. Unless we get something better, this is probably the direction we're going to go. And so let me go ahead and show you a couple ones. And I appreciate Dr. Simmons has really vetted, has gone through and done the research to say in terms of with the TEA and some of what other organizations we have to kind of check their naming. She's done all the homegrown that stuff. And I'm really glad because I didn't. So basically, the name that we're kind of running for right now is University Academy. And so let me just kind of unpack that a little bit, and then obviously, so some things that kind of have to be there, they're kind of accents and not really part of that. The UT Tyler kind of has to be there because of TEA, their opinion, because we are a university charter. So it needs to identify which university we're part of. And then also too, as we have 3 individual physical campuses, those need to be identified too as part of the name as well. But we do kind of envision if we implement something like this, generally speaking, kind of like you do now, you say Innovation Academy, you don't really say the full name, which is, what's the official full name?
The University of Texas at Tyler, Innovation Academy at Tyler, at Longview.
Yeah, Tyler. So we still kind of have those. So why University Academy? And so for us, there's a couple of things. At least some of the things that I thought about, and using my other things too, is that you know, university is significant because we do think as we brand position ourselves, what makes us distinctive and what gives us our most value add is the fact that we are aligned with the university, and that you get in no disrespect for people who are going to be getting dual credit at like with one of the JCs around here, one of our partners, right? But the kind of credit that you're getting at the Innovation Academy is going to really set you up to really jumpstart you at a UT level institution. And so we think that's probably the most distinctive thing we thought that some of the previous brands spoke a little bit to the STEM focus, and some of the thoughts that we had is that we thought the STEM was not as important. We see more STEM options popping up than more in the past. We see some of, even the public schools are doing magnets and other things like that. So STEM isn't as a distinctive thing anymore. And so the innovation part of the previous name kind of spoke to that. So the other thing too is that if you think about what are the words that are the highest level of education, right? On the K-12 level, how else would you describe a school if you say what is the best type of K-12 school? What word would you use? Academy, right? You don't think of academy as being it's not an entry level thing. It's academy in and of itself. That word evokes a level of education that is superior. So you guys are to use that word, and it's one of the reasons why. And so it does evoke part of that parent promise. And on the higher ed level, the university is the highest level of higher education. You have colleges and other things, whatever, but again, university is kind of the gold standard of this is the definitive higher institution. And so part of that branding is saying, hey, we're going to use some names that kind of talk about our distinctive and talk about, and also the words themselves evoke the highest quality of education. So we paired it here with flag tee. I'm going to show you another version. And by the way, the artwork can change. So really, we're talking about the name. The artwork once we pick a name, we'll have all kinds of variations on the artwork and so forth. So I'm sorry, I probably should have said that earlier. The artwork is just kind of give you an idea. We can tweak that or whatever. So probably would have definitely some sort of affiliation with flag tee on that. And so here's kind of another version that we make it a little bit different. So sort of thing. But so anyway, so that's kind of where we are. We have a meeting with the Palestine design group in a couple weeks.
Correct.
And we'll see if we get some critical feedback. Then Dr. Simmons and the dean and myself and whoever else Dr. Simmons wants to invite, we'll have kind of a smaller group. We'll kind of take all that feedback and we'll make a recommendation as a group to cabinet, to the UT Tower cabinet, and then they'll make a final approval. And then the idea is whatever we end up deciding to do, we really want to have a lot of this stuff in place for when the students come back in the fall. So that's kind of the idea.
So just to talk from the board, so once the cabinet approves, then we will come back to the board and get approval for a non-expansion amendment, because that has to be submitted to TEA for official approval through TEA. So the university can approve the name, but it has to be officially approved through the Texas Education Agency. And so that'll be the process. So
will we
once,
have enough time to approve that at the July meeting? Will that be?
yes, our hope is that we will be able to approve the non-expansion amendment in July and then submit it to TEA to get it. Usually it takes, there's usually a window. Sometimes they can expedite things if it's not anything. They're going to check a couple things. Again, we've already worked with them on a couple things just to give them kind of a heads up that we're looking at these things. And the feedback that we got from them was that the UT Tyler needs to be in the name because you are a university charter, and we really want university charters to have their name associated with the university that they're affiliated with. And then also at Tyler, at Palestine, at Longview, prior to when the Innovation Academy was created, they did not have the at Tyler, at Palestine, at Longview, and so many records got messed up. Basically, schools couldn't.
When they were trying to request records, they couldn't distinguish which one they wanted
records from. So we went back in after the fact and added at Palestine. So that was another thing that they asked that we keep. And then we went in to look to see if there was a University of Texas at Tyler, University Academy and there wasn't. So usually if I don't see any reason based on the feedback that I received in them that they would not approve it.
Our district level name would just basically not have the at Palestine.
Correct.
It would just be the
University Academy.
Well, the UT Tyler.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the process we're in. I think there will be a round of squeezing in where we'll have a very short window, but there will be a window opportunity via electronic mail, we'll let parents know about what's going on and give them a very, probably a very short input window. Just because of the time that we're doing. I'm not. That's really your call.
Our meeting in Palestine is our final design team meeting is the 21st of May. And so shortly after that, you would be able to then present to cabinet, or I guess then we would do a survey or feedback from parents and then present to cabinet. But the feedback we've received from the 2 of the 3 design teams has been very positive. You know, it's a change that, you know, as we've shared, that it's a requirement. I mean, we're being required to change our name, so you embrace that, and I think it's a great opportunity for us to really look how we can better connect with the university. So,
and I think from our perspective, you know, we see it as the beginning of a more supportive relationship from marketing communications, because we really want to see these innovation academies thrive. One thing that maybe you guys don't see as much of, but it's important for me to think about. How am I helping Dr. Sherman market his college education psychology is to say, hey, we have this is a distinct for prospective teacher ed students, right? We're affiliated with this, we have pedagogical research going on, we have these locations, and so it's a two-way benefit, you know, as you guys continue your great work and your brand improves and so forth, then we see that we can use this activity to help attract prospective students into our college of education. So we appreciate that.
anyone have any questions, Mr. Roebuck?
Curious about cost and who would the current Innovation Academy inherit those costs, or is that something the university does? How does that work?
So the way let me tell you how I think it will work, and then let me give you an asterisk saying I may have to do some research and do some stuff. So the way I think it would work right now is a lot of the things that would happen would be just as you guys replace things, you know. So like what we've done at the university is that for a lot of things, it's saying, hey, we're going to be wise stewards of public funds, so we're not going to go out and spend $5 million to get every single logo replaced right now, right? So as things to replace is fine. So I think things that I would care about a lot would be road signage, things I care about a lot, and stuff like that. And I think I probably have, and I probably can justify that in terms of overall institutional branding, right? And I probably can say, again, my asterisk, so that I just wouldn't verify everything, but I would probably say it's important for me, as I think about broad university branding, that these facilities that represent us have appropriate branding, right? And so that might be expensive. I'm actually out of my general marketing budget. Might be, and so that's probably what we see. Particular things like signage on the roads, those sorts of stuff that we want to replace that with some nice signage or whatever. We're already doing a lot of signage replacement anyway, and so it'll probably be part of that. In terms of other expenses, I think if you have a bunch of stationery printed out, I don't know if you do or not. You probably don't. You probably print it as you go. But if you did, I would say, yeah, burn through what you have. I don't know if you guys business cards, I think order your branded stuff. So, but pretty much, I think you do a lot of your printing and stuff on the flyer. Like you're sending out flyers to parents or whatever. You're printing them as you need them. Yeah, they've already kind of done some modifications already. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of operational expense. I think there are a few capital expenses. We'll try to make sure that those aren't impacted. Those don't impact the operational aspect, negatively. But so something that might cost several $1,000s, like a village signage and that sort of thing, are going to be things that I'm going to be looking first to see if I can fund that out of mine. So now I may have a conversation with somebody in audit or somebody saying, you're not allowed, state regulation 26.7 says you can't spend this account to do this. So, and I'm still learning all those rules, and there are a lot of them. But generally speaking, that's kind of where I want to go with that. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
No, that's a good question, because we'd already thought about that as we talked about our budget. That came up about looking at if we are going to officially make the name change, then how that will affect some of our our costs with our budget.
Yeah, I mean, so
I think you're gonna have a little bit as we had talked through some things.
And I think we just have to sit down and identify what the real costs are. So again, the ones that popped in my mind are roads, or signage, building signs, that sort of thing. So
I think that's the biggest problem.
Okay.
Any other questions?
What's the name of the typeface?
okay, so this right here, the logo itself is a Museo slab. But that's not allowed to use for anything besides the logo. So this is Proxima Nova.
All right.
So, and that's something where we've acquired, like, even for example, so here's an expense, right? Proxima Nova. Who has Proxima Nova here? Probably nobody. Well, guess what? We bought a huge license of Proxima Nova for the university. So when you guys need it, you come to us, we'll get you a license copy of it, right? So we want you to use Proxima Nova. So that's consistent visual. So. Okay, well, I'm really, thank you for listening, and I'm really excited about as we have been revamping our marketing, getting into some of these more exciting things the university is doing, like the Innovation Academy, and seeing where we can value add. So appreciate your support, and if you ever need anything from us or have any questions, you can reach out directly to me, or you can either of these fine folks. We're happy to reach out to me. I'm sure we're happy to give me a call on your behalf. I'm sure. So, great. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Okay, I'm trying to sign back in, excuse me. All right, so the next item that we have that we'll jump back to is student competitions. We have Emily Wood here. Emily Wood is a teacher at the Innovation Academy Tyler campus, teaches science. She's also working on her superintendent's certification, and so she served as a superintendent intern. And one of her requirements of superintendent internship is to work with the superintendent or look at some opportunity to come before the board. And so when we sat and talked, she asked for permission to talk to the board about all the student competitions. And so she's specifically going to talk about Tyler, since she serves the Tyler campus. But I will say that if looking back over the last several years, we have really engaged and increased our number of student competitions across the district. I contribute that to the teachers and the directors looking for opportunities. And when we do look at opportunities, we're real mindful of who we are. I think that's real important, in trying to align those activities with who we truly are. So we are continue to explore opportunities. So Emily's going to talk to us today about one opportunity that our students have engaged in specifically, that she serves as a supervisor. And so Emily, at this time, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, I'm going to stay where I am just for close quarters. So this last week, actually last Thursday, I had the opportunity to go with 3 other teachers to Colorado with 9 students. And so they competed in the Globe Science Symposium. And this is actually a picture that one of the students took, all the other one, while we were at one of the research facilities. So I wanted to kind of show some of the pictures that they shared with me. So while the students were there, prior to going, what they had to do is they had to come up with a research question. And this isn't just a normal science fair research question. This is higher level. The type of work that they created was what you would see when you walk through the biology building at the university. The big posters that have the research question, that have all their data and their charts, as well as their conclusions. And if you'll go to the next slide. So while they were there, they had the opportunity to collaborate with other students from different schools that were competing in the Globe Science Symposium, and they were able to get feedback on their posters prior to presentations. Then while we were there, there was 11 total that competed. We had 4 of them. So we had 2 recognitions, and then we had 2 awards. So we had a recognition for this student in Palestine. They said that she had great communication skills, and I kind of, whenever I heard that, I was like, I feel like that goes back to our model of our school, because they are used to presenting and they're used to getting up and speaking in front of people. So she had great communication skills, as well as using data from other students who had put their data in the Globe system. So she was comparing her data to other students' data. So she was recognized for that. The next one that was recognized, this is actually Becky's daughter. She was in this group. They were recognized for communication, but also their data. They were looking at macroinvertebrates, and they were counting them and looking at the water quality. They also got the communication recognition as well. They did a wonderful job.
Proud mommy.
One of the awards, we got the Globe Data Award. So these students also were comparing their data that they found when they looked at the effects of the dam on the water quality. They were able to look at students from other areas, and they were able to compare their data to the other students to see if their data was similar or if it was different, as well as how the different areas looked like their area. So there was 2, those were 2 Palestine. And then the Tyler group, they received a research question award. And so they all had a really good time. And while we were there, we were able to kind of take them out of their element. And we actually took them to a ski lodge that was closed. And I decided to add that in there too. So these students, some of them had never seen snow. I mean, we get very little here in Tyler. And if you go to the next slide, we walked underneath the gate at the ski lodge. It was closed for the season, but the students, it wasn't illegal. It was, you can blame Ben. But we took all the students up there, and it was so funny. They were having the time of their life, including Zach Adams, who was acting like a big kid. So the students had a wonderful time. And when I asked them, I was like, well, what was your favorite part? A lot of them said the snow, but a lot of them said they liked the opportunity to be able to present and have that experience before going to the university. Because I was honest with them. I said, guys, I've never had to do this. I've never had to make a poster. I've never had to do this much research whenever I was getting my degree. So it was really neat to see that. And then there's one more. And this is a group of all of our kids together, Palestine and Tyler, and they had a great time. And it was really neat to see, since we are 2 separate schools in different towns, how they were able to come together and really communicate and collaborate and get to know each other. So that's just a little bit about Globe, and I'm hoping that next year we have an even larger group that goes. And as of right now, it'll be in New Mexico.
What grade level are they?
These were all 9th graders. And I don't believe any of the Palestine group had gone before. The 3 that I took this year, they actually competed last year. So they're like, we want to do this again next year. Okay. So they've talked about actually adding to their research question, and then they could present it again next year.
This is fantastic. Is there a way that we can get more publication about this, like in the Tyler paper or on KLTV? Or, I mean, sometimes we don't toot our horn enough that we're doing great things.
Yeah, I think so too. It's just, it's a process.
Sure.
So, sometimes we attend, and then, it's just, again, a layer of processes to get it approved to go through media. But I do think that we are actually revamping our website so directors can post, instead of going through a layer of individuals to be able to post student photos or activities, and they can directly have access to post things like this to the website. So when a parent or a interested parent clicks on our website, they're able to see these things and how students have these opportunities. But I do think it is definitely something we need to do a better job of, is getting the word out there about all the great activities that the students are involved in, for sure. Directors, are there any other specific competition that you want to share that's individualized to your campus?
Teams. Yeah,
Okay.
I have teams that are going to the competition in Atlanta, Georgia. And we had 2 middle school teams from the Tyler campus that made it to nationals, and so they'll be going there in June to compete. And
we have 1 middle school team. We also took a student to state UIL. We actually had our mathematics team qualify for regionals and went to regionals for UIL. And then we had a student qualify for regionals in in ready writing, and another student qualified for regionals in chemistry. That student moved on to state competition the same weekend as Globe, and he was number 2 in the state in chemistry and number 5 in overall science. So he medaled in both areas, the general science and chemistry.
At Longview, we had 2 students, 3 qualify for regionals in speaking, persuasive and informative. I think that speaks to all of our presentation skills. And then we have a very active student council. They attend leadership conferences and really like teaching them to be servant leaders. So that I think right now student council is a real big part of our campus.
I think something very unique about their student council is that although they have elections, any student can participate in their student council as long as they attend the meetings, and the council can actually vote them on. So although there are elections with student council, and you know that's popularity vote, if someone really wants to be on the council, all they have to do is attend meetings. They're open to participate in all the activities of the council. So what they have seen is that their council has grown and grown and grown.
And the kids start to pay attention. They know who's doing the work. And so when we do have the elections, the ones voted are the ones that are doing. But then any kid that's like, well, I kind of want to be involved, will just come to the meetings and help.
So another thing that we recently, as we have stepped into the high school arena, we have come across a lot of things that are very new. Letter jackets have been something new that we've had to research and develop a procedure for how we're going to award letter jackets. So the competitions that were mentioned here today, I commend the committee that developed the list of ways students can letter. So the Innovation Academy will fund the purchase of the student's jacket. And the student will then have an opportunity to purchase what do they call them? Patches, or they can put their name on it. That will be their responsibility. So in order for the student to receive the letter jacket, they will have to letter in certain events and activities. And one way that they can letter is that they participate in UIL for so many different years, or they participate in a competition. So there's set ways. So one thing that we have seen that since we have announced ways that students can letter is their interest level in participating in these competitions has increased. We have students that are asking how they now can make sure that they're part of the UIL team, how they can also work with the student council, because that's another way that they can letter. So it's really, it's kind of been a benefit, a win-win for us, because the students they're excited, they like the jackets, they had some say in the jacket, and now they're looking at ways that they can receive their jacket even early. So real exciting time, and it's just it's great to see the participation that we have at each campus. And I do like the fact that they're all unique. Every campus has some things that they embrace and their students embrace a little more than others. Any other competitions?
We have the Chevron Design Challenge coming up. That's next weekend. And we have 4 teams from Tyler that are going, and it's held in Houston. So I'm getting it all done.
So you'll be there. Good. All right. All right. Well, thank you so much, Emily. And
She's back there.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to record it.
You didn't know that your professor was going to be in the room at the same time, did you? Yeah, that's the way to look at the positive side of that.
She doesn't have to watch a video.
Yeah. You didn't have to video yourself. All right. So moving on, financial updates. Chestnut, you have anything there you want to?
These are our
reflect on?
numbers. We've received 2.9 million and we've expensed 4.3 million. And some of the functions that you see on that report that are out of balance, the amendments that you just approved will fix those functions that are out of balance. And then this report is as of April 30th.
Any other questions? And we are currently working on our budget for the next school year. So each individual that has a budget assigned to them is submitting kind of a wish list. These are the things we see that we're going to need, and then we'll compile that and submit it to the board for approval in July. All right, Chestnut, you want to go back to don't have a copy of it. Oh, you have it, okay. So district and campus enrollment and attendance, if you have that pulled up. And so as you can see currently, you can see the grade levels that we serve.
I can't see it yet.
I'm sorry, guys.
So currently we have on the Tyler campus 266 students, on Longview 221, and Palestine 183. I will say that the situation in Palestine with facilities has really affected our enrollment, and we've shared that openly. And then our total is 670 students. So this year, that's our current enrollment, and looking at our district attendance rates has held steady with all the allergies and the flu outbreaks and things. So that is increased. Also, just a note for next year to speak about enrollment, Tyler will have our first K through 12th grade campus. In Longview, we will have, let me think back, first through 12th grade. We will not have kindergarten. And then in Palestine, unique due to facilities, we will have 3rd through 11th grade. 3rd through 12th grade, sorry, we will have 12th grades. I'm looking at 11th and I'm trying to think 12. But to say all of that, this is the first year that we have had our strongest pool of applicants through. We've had to have lotteries that we've never had to have before. We have situations right now where we're looking at, we did not have intentions of having 2 grades, so 2 sections of a specific grade, and we're able to look at that option where that's not been on the table simply because we didn't have a strong enough wait list. So one thing that charter schools encourage you, that when you're looking at wait lists, you need to have a very strong wait list before you open another section. And we have wait lists in the 30s and 40s for a specific grade. And so when you have that, then you can begin to say, okay, if I'm only going to offer 18 sections of students, then that's a strong enough wait list that you could look at looking at adding another section. And as you know, as a board, adding a section means adding students. Adding students needs increase in revenue. And so again, going into the next school year, right now our enrollment looks stronger across the board, across all 3 campuses than it ever has been. And the directors are still meeting with parents, and the receptionists are still taking calls every day from potential parents and interested applicants. So it's a great opportunity for each one of the communities, and we're real excited about our potential enrollment. In fact, we will not have this classroom next year, this opportunity to use this room, because this will be a classroom. We're also looking at having to move our technology around so that they're going to be housed in a conference room. So we're going to open up that classroom here. So in Tyler, remind me again, how many?
Potentially 436 students, almost double next year.
Wow.
In 1 year.
In 1 year.
Wow.
And we have wait lists across all campuses. Probably our strongest wait list is in Longview. I'll say Longview is busting at the seams, and she is wanting to expand, and the enrollment shows the need for expansion, or the potential enrollment. And so it's just, again, exciting opportunity across the district to see how we went from last year in kindergarten, when we thought, oh my goodness, are we going to make it? You remember there was a time when we were sitting there thinking in Tyler, we only had 8 students, and we don't even know if those 8 are for sure going to show up. And, you begin to think, oh my goodness, should we have added kindergarten? And this year,
we had kindergarten, we had so many on the wait list, we opened a second section of kindergarten, and we still have a waiting list.
With a section second. So that just kind of just supports what we're doing, is connecting with the community and their needs. And a shout out to each one of the directors and the curriculum teams, and just an amazing job that they're doing, connecting and working with the students and teachers.
So last year at the beginning of the year, or this year, I guess, we talked about how some people said they were going to show up and then didn't show up. And Were there some procedures there to help parents understand that they are making the commitment? Remember?
Yes, so I can say that the directors and their teams go above and beyond to do the very best we can, but understand there's no money tied. We can't arrest a parent if they choose not to show up. So we do the very best we can to stay in communication. I'll tell you, Tyler is it's probably the area where we struggle the most in really defining the numbers because of so many opportunities. As were mentioned, you will have parents that apply to a couple of private schools, a couple of charter schools, and they've got that one that they really want in their mind, and then they've got their second option, and until they get into that first option, they may accept their second option, or they may be pending looking at if they're going to look at a private option or homeschool option. So there's just so many options in Tyler, but I will say that we have put systems in place. One thing we do is we do enrollment opportunities for students as far as enrollment days, where we make contact with the parent and the student in some way to have them come up to the school. Are we still doing the big enrollment days for each of the campuses for new students?
So
Okay.
has that gone out?
The dates. But what we have found is that it really helps if we stay in communication with a parent and just try to make contact with them. In the event that we don't get a response for them, what we do is we follow up with a phone call to say we noticed that we haven't heard from you, or we haven't received X paperwork, because there's a lot of paperwork tied to new students. Then they usually will then during a phone call say, oh, well, we forgot to let you know that we're going to another school. And so that gives us a window to try to bring in another student. We all know that once school has started, it's very hard to, in the event we have an opening, usually people don't make that transition. Just because they've already bought school supplies, oftentimes they've bought uniforms, and their kid is settled, they've met the new teacher, they've gone to the back to school bash, and so we did the very best we can, but again, that is kind of that's just the roll of the dice of the charter school.
And I think with the bigger wait lists, we're gonna have less and less problem with that, because like you said in the beginning, that not opening a second section until you have a strong wait list, the idea behind that being that you don't want to open another section and deplete your wait list, because the wait list is what keeps people staying. Because they won't withdraw if they know they can't get right back in.
Correct.
So if they withdraw and they don't accept your invitation, they're right back at the bottom of the list. So if you open a second section and you only have 2 on the waiting list, and but if you open another section and you still have 40 on the waiting list, they're more likely to accept it, number one, because they don't want to go back to the bottom, or if they do accept it, they're more likely to stay. And that was kind of the whole. That's what they were talking about at the Charter Summit last year, was don't open another section until your wait list is extremely strong.
Yeah.
And that the wait list is what keeps your parents there, because they don't want to leave. And even if they do leave, you've got a wait list to fill it right back.
Yeah, and that's something we've never had, to be honest. We've really had strong sections, but if we had a situation where a family moved and they had 3 or 4 children, it really hurt our budget. And now I think it's going to be where we can recruit students. And if they know that we have such a strong wait list that they're not going to have the opportunity to probably get in next year, they may make that move throughout during the year, excuse me. Whereas, parents ask, how many kids do you have on the wait list? Well, we only have 3. Well, we'll roll the dice and we'll stay and we'll try to come back next year. But when you say we have 35, and this is your one opportunity, and I can't guarantee you're going to have this opportunity again, then they're more likely to make that change.
I know we talked about this last time, and Ms. Dennis and I talked about it. Did we ever implement, or was it implemented, where, say, a family decides to leave the school, but then realizes, oh, this wasn't a smart move, to try to come back? We were going to implement something where we would make it clear to them that if you leave, your spot isn't still there. You're basically going to the bottom of the list. Is that something that?
But that's required by the charter. That's law. That's law.
They're not guaranteed back as a favor or anything like that. It's law
Correct.
across the board.
And so we
Okay,
had,
good.
I'll tell you another situation we had that was interesting. We had to kind of learn the law on that. We had a student that was currently in Tyler that transferred to Palestine, and they just assumed that they would get their spot in Palestine, but that's two separate schools. And those are two separate numbers. So they had to go basically through the lottery process to get enrolled. But
They actually have to reapply,
Mhm.
submit an application, has to go through the lottery, has to be approved, all the same.
Any other questions? All right, so we talked about the next item is facilities. Dr. Sherman's looking at me. So as you know that we've been working through some facilities, some updates here on the Tyler campus that we're currently looking at. We realized that in the parking lot that there's that area there that has basically washed away. We have got a bid on that, and we have given a funding code to fix that. Looks like that cost just to fix that area there is about $10,000 to come in, but we understand, and with the increase in enrollment, there is no way that we can block that off next year and try to figure out how to path, exit, drop off, and pick up area, the map that out. So that's an integral part of students drop off, and then parents use that for pickup as well. So we were kind of, our hands were tied, $10,000. It wasn't budgeted this year to fix, but we've got to fix it, and it is continuing to wash away. So that, in my understanding, will be fixed before the start of the school year. So we're really excited about that update here with that facility. Also, just as I was noting, there are 3 classrooms, I think, here in Tyler that were not currently being used as classrooms, such as the one you're in. Those will be prepared over the summer to be used for classrooms to open up to increase that enrollment that we just spoke to. The other facility here in Tyler that we have pending is we're looking at a porch in order to add the classrooms over to the side. That as you know, there's a set of portables that currently our IT department's using. They used to be a classroom that Ms. Hilbig used, and so we're going to need to add a porch to connect those portables to the porch area. In order for student safety. We just really don't want students walking through that parking lot and having to walk around. There's not a restroom out there, so they will have to be able to access that porch. So I've got a email out to Andy Cross right now, waiting on a bid. And so I think, and Tyler, that's the big facility updates that we have. Longview, currently, we don't really have any facility needs other than we need to look at some opportunities. They are currently Longview's in modulars. There is an opportunity. It was already planned to add modulars to the back of that facility. The enrollment supports that, so that will be an option that we will be looking at in the future as well. If Tyler, looking at for next year too, Tyler, it will be at capacity this year, going into next year. So just as Longview will be at full capacity for next year. So you're looking at 2 campuses going into the start of next year will be at full capacity. Whereas this year we can say Tyler wasn't at full capacity because we're sitting in a room right now that could be used as a classroom. And then in Palestine, currently, there has been some change at the university and administration. And so we are looking at reviewing the facility plans and hopefully be in a position to communicate that to the design team or to the university community in a very short time is our hope. So we know that we, as already discussed, Palestine will be starting in Mathis Hall. We are not going to bring 2nd graders in next year, as we've already discussed. So Palestine will house 3rd through 12th grade next year in the Mathis Hall facility. Our hope is to have a facility option available for those students to transition out by the spring of 2018? 19. And I know some of the parents in Palestine have approached Ms. Rutledge and asked some specific details. We're just not in the position at this time to share the very specifics about the facility plans. We were hoping we would be, but with that change in administration at the university, those decisions have been allocated elsewhere. And so we're again waiting for that individual to kind of review everything, meet with us and give us a recommendation and finalize some things so that then we can communicate to the community in Palestine.
So does that mean that the individual that shared the plan and put that on the table, those plans are being reviewed by the new personnel that's coming in, and that's still an option, or is it kind of starting from ground zero? Surely not.
Because it's been reassigned within the cabinet to another vice president, we met with him to share information, and he's asked us to get some additional information, which the facilities construction team is getting him that information. So we're hoping that a concrete plan is moving forward pretty soon. There's no commitment to move forward.
So that's the good news. The commitment is still there. I think they're just looking at going back and revisiting some of the options and trying to determine which is the best long-term option. Any other questions regarding facilities? All right, so rebranding, we've already discussed that, and so the next item is STAR data. So STAR has definitely been, it's STAR season, that's all I can say. I know that any kid that's in a school, traditional, or in an ISD right now, a public school, they're feeling the heat of STAR. My son is small and ready for STAR to be done. So, is Brian Weaver? Yes, because I can see it. So Brian has prepared this document. So I've asked him to share the data. The data that we currently do have is our, as you know, 5th grade and 8th grade students are SSI students, meaning they have 3 opportunities to pass the reading and math STAR assessment. And so we get their data back early simply because they test early, and we need that data to determine if the student needs additional interventions prior to that second assessment. So Brian Weaver's here today. He's going to talk to you about our current 5th and 8th grade data that we have.
All right, so we're going to look particularly at 5th grade for a second, and for you to know that as testing gets done this week, next week, and the results roll in, you'll be seeing them POCs, and then all the other grade levels and all the other subjects. This is a little bit of an education process. The new accountability system. Yes, at the end of the day, you'll have an A, B, C, D, or F. You'll have a couple of those in a couple of areas. And
we're not going to have the Fs or Ds.
Sure. So, but behind that letter grade are some internals that certainly teachers track very closely. And then I'm certain that the board members would want a little bit behind that curtain. So I apologize in one sense for so many numbers, but gone are the days that all I could tell you, even last year, we would have simply said the district had a 76% passing last year in reading and now has 85% passing. We would have just shown you a bar chart that would have shown that number, that 76%, up to that 85% in reading. We said, isn't that good? That's 9% growth. We wouldn't have analyzed it too much further than that. And in math, we would have looked here and said last year we had 77% of our kids passing. Now we had 88% passing. We said, well, that's 11%. I guess that's good. The state no longer looks at just that one number, how many are passing. We use a bit of a mantra now. Here we call it 90, 60, 30. Not only do you need 90% passing, you need 60% that meets what you call the meets standard. If you were a classroom teacher, it's like everybody getting a 70 on the test, like the real passing grade. And then the 30, or the third number, is how many get masters. That's like making an 88, 85, test. So the state is looking at all these numbers. So we just use that kind of a mantra, that triplet, 90, 60, 30. That's what it would take to get an A on the new report card. Have 90% of your kids passing, 60% of them at that middle level, and 30% at that highest level. Those represent levels of college preparedness and things like that. And just to belabor that point a little bit, the state kind of created a problem for itself, and this is a correction. It's a great correction. By just reporting 90% passing, one school can have, and this was happening more and more, 90% passing, and only 10% get that real passing rate, and none at the advanced grade. And that could decline over the years, and yet they get 90% passing. You see that picture on that triplet? 90, 0, 0. A lot of passers, but nobody knows. The public didn't know that behind the scenes there were none at the real standard and at the higher standard of college preparation. So now the state is making it more visible. It's making it more transparent. So our triplets, if y'all would get used to that language, it would make things very easy to look at kind of quickly. Is this kind of, it's this 90, 60, 30. That's what that triplet is. And then that fourth number is the average. I hate to say that as a math teacher, but the state calls it a type of an average. And they use these numbers to make these calculations. Also, they have a great emphasis now on ECD, economically disadvantaged students. So we want to make that more transparent, more visible, make sure we're paying attention to it. So instead of just telling you that we had a 76 to an 85, we're saying we went from this triplet, a 76, 55, 33, getting that idea? Passers, meets, the exact language of masters. From that kind of 76, 55, 33 to an 85, 60, 35. So that's good that each of those numbers went up. Your internals were also going up. Notice that the average of those was from a 55 to a 60. Notice in that reading, it's getting close to our goal of 90, 60, 30. That's not an exact goal. That's just an easy mantra to remember. I think the exact numbers were 88, 57, 33. That just wasn't as fun to say, and I can't remember. So we just say 90, 60, 30 as a general goal. So that would be like making an A in that little area of 5th grade reading this year, where last year that would have been a B. That's the key to all of these numbers. I know they're trying to organize them as best as possible to look at them. So in math, at the district level, 77, 36, 15, what's called an average of 43, which would have been a C. That were a report card last year. That this year, the 5th grade results come in on the first administration. Keep in mind, 5th graders are a little unusual, they get, or unique, that they have the second administration. and then for accountability, and then those students for the individual subsets third. But that went up to an 88, 49, 25. Again, the triplet 77, 36, 15, average of 43, to an 88, 49, 25. So extent. So from a 43, which was a C, to a 54, which is a B. I say that somewhat loosely. The state has not set the cutoffs exactly for A, B, C, D. We know that A is somewhere around 60. So over here, just on the 2 dimensions that I talked about, reading went up by 9, 5, and 2 in those areas of concern in that triplet. Up 9%, up 5%, up 2. That average score went up 5. And in math, it went up 11, 16, and 10. Right below that was looking at ECD kids only economically disadvantaged kids. A critical dimensions to look at, more and more so in schools everywhere. So you see a 41 down to a 37. Right, same number. Before, all I had to tell you was 76 to 85. Start looking at the internals. We've got average of 41, 37, down 4%. So there's an internal. In the area of math, went from this 58, 23, 0. You see how that 0 stands out to you as you get used to that triplet? That means ECD kids, they were 0 scoring advanced. That was the old language, I'm sorry. Masters is the new language, but you get the idea positionally, that higher level, that college preparedness. When I say college preparedness, those that are at this level, statistically, by the state, say 75% chance of completing the first year of college without need for remediation. That's only a 75% chance.
And that's the key, without a need for remediation,
Without need
because
for
a lot of
remediation.
students get into college, but what they find is that they have to take several remedial classes. They're not accepted into that math class, and those remedial classes usually don't count towards their degree.
There you go.
And so what happens is they struggle because financially they're having to pay for a class that it's not counting towards them completing their degree. And if they, and it's my understanding, if they don't are not successful in that remedial class, then they have to continue to take it, and then pretty soon they've spent thousands of dollars on remedial classes that never count towards their degree. So that's kind of a complaint from a parent. A parent thinks their child is taking classes towards their degree plan because they're enrolled in college. You would simply think, oh, my kids in college, they're definitely taking classes. I've seen their report card. Why do they only have 6 hours of credit when I was thinking they were taking 15 hours of coursework? And so that's been a big concern of universities, is they say that they have to spend so much time remediating students before they can really start educating them towards their degree plan. So that's really one of the reasons this all came about, was that, just like Mr. Weaver was saying, a school district could advertise, we have 90% of our students passing. Great. Come to us. 90% of our kids are passing, but passing what? And what is passing? We know that in passing on the STAR test is not the passing that we know. We know that passing on the STAR test could mean them getting as low as 42% correct on a test. Well, 42% correct on a test, in my mind, my son is not passing. We're having a hard conversation. And we're looking at some support services to come in, because that's not passing. Well, again, there's been a lot of miscommunication under the old system. I will tell you, across the state, superintendents and educators don't like this new system because it really does call them out to not be able to say, I have 90% passing. This really makes them have to say, I have 90% passing, but I have only 5% ECD, or 5% advanced, or 5% mastery. And it's not as exciting to share the news. And this is also going to really define A, like Mr. Weaver was saying. A lot of times, a school that performed, in our mind, that met standard, when you look at their rating, a MET standard, you get a stamp of a MET standard. That MET standard is very different than maybe our MET standard. I'll give you an example. There's school districts, there's ISDs that did not meet all the indices that got a MET standards rating. So they got to advertise to parents, we met standards academically by the state standards. But we met standards and we met all indices, plus we got advanced in some areas with distinctions and things like that. And now what this does, again, it just really defines, now instead of you just getting a MET standard or improvement required rating, that it's going to be, there's more layers in the onion, basically. There's an A, there's a B, a B is going to be a little different than the campus that got an A. I think it's going to relate more to the parents, and I think that's one thing that a lot of educators don't like.
I think it will be common sense at the end of the day. And I think we've seen an effect by teachers, even with the 90, 60, 30 mentality. You do look at your class a little differently if you're just looking at getting everybody to pass. Then if you're like, you know what, I kind of make sure my highest are getting their best and my middle are getting their best, that everybody is growing. It really, at the end of the day, says it's everybody growing. And a lot of schools turned into, oh, let me spend all my time with the kids that are only failing and kind of ignore the kids at the top. But we can see it in the data. We've seen middle schools go from high scoring top kids dropping down by the time they get out of that middle school, go into a high school. that whole time in middle school said we have 90% passing, 90% passing, 90% passing, but they weren't talking about the internals. Their upper kids were actually falling. We're losing those great kids going up into the college tracks. And 60% of incoming freshmen now taking remedial math and not getting out of it. Well, I wanted just opportunity to kind of explain. I wrote off the bottom for you to peruse it some more, but this one to sell the idea of the triplet, what it kind of means. I'll just say then, I'm sorry I didn't have, these weren't available at the time. I had a note at the bottom, they've been relatively flat. I was named to be a liar on that. The state improved this year. The state improved, I'll supply these later. If I were to put these in here, just the bottom line is they improved by about 5% here and 6% here.
Wow.
So when you really start looking at this, there's things to go, oh, I did good. And there's things to go, oh, but we're not doing as good as. You know, so if you just look at something in isolation and go,
But doesn't the state draw the line on passing? Or
yeah,
is it
well, that's an interesting point. They will set the standards according to 16, 17 kind of norms, and then they will leave them there. This is unusual. They will leave them there for 5 years, which theoretically will allow everyone to eventually make it an A by the time the 5th year comes. I know, but that's a whole nother discussion. But without seeing the new numbers here, it's hard for me to draw all the comparisons to you. But I just hope that the one objective that I would have met, we would get used to this idea of this triplet and the different levels it is, and this average of that triplet. ECD kids, imagine this being expanded out for Hispanic, African American, LEP, limited English proficient. They've added 2 new categories, which are going to be very interesting. Continuously enrolled students. Think about that for a second. It'll be its own category. A student that has been with your institution for the past 3 years. Just look at the data on them. Imagine what that says about your institution. You know, people complain, well, I have a highly mobile population, people coming and going, how can I speak for all these kids? Well, they're going to call that out. And they're going to say, guess what? We have continuously enrolled with this triplet. See if you can get 90, 60, 30 with them. Maybe. They're messing with the definition on that. Right now it is 3 years, though. It is 3 years. And they'll look at your non-continuously enrolled to say, okay, how are you doing with those that are coming in and out of your school and you only have a year with or 2 years with or whatever it is. So they're getting much better at looking at all this. So my point is we're trying to pay attention to this. We're trying to look into the internals, try to see where we're strong, fine. You always want to congratulate yourself to see where we're weak and try to work on that. I'll just have one note, I guess, because the principals really discussed. Most places when you see ECD suppressions and not meeting their needs, sometimes only think, what do I do to meet ECD needs? There's some validity to that. So I speak a little bit editorial right now. But the idea that the principals say, let's just make our program strong enough that it rises all people. You know, that it's not a matter of doing something different for every different group. It's a matter of making your program strong enough that all people benefit from it, and you pay attention to those things. Again, I'm not saying there aren't certain things that sometimes you look at in terms of cultural sensitivities and things like this. But we're already seeing in some cases, as we look at some of the internal more later, that if this program is strong across the board, you don't even have to separate one group from another. Everyone rises with those opportunities. So I'll just leave that at that, and we'll be having a lot more data coming your way as the results come in.
So on a side note, the students that did not pass, the law requires us to provide them targeted interventions. So those targeted interventions are in place, and they, the students will have an opportunity to take a second assessment. Those results will come in prior to the very end of the year. If the student does not pass or meet the standards, the same language, then they will receive targeted support through the summer, through the month of June. Again, we're working our very best to support those students. I think on each campus we have a very limited number where we're talking about 4 students, 6 students, 2 or 3 students that we're supporting. So what we do is, and a lot of those students were very close, and so we're hoping that with this additional targeted support that they're being provided, that they're going to be successful. I just want to say that I've always said this data is a directly is aligned with the quality of teachers that we have. You would not have this quality of data without quality teachers. But then I also can say that the quality of support that we provide those teachers. One thing here that we invest a lot of time in and money is with our coaching staff. Having coaches go into the classroom and support the teachers, really work with them. Our administrators working with the teachers, looking at their lessons, making sure they're aligned with the level of rigor. Mr. Weaver works closely with the teachers on data and the directors. So when you have this wealth of information, if I'm a classroom teacher and I know there's someone there to help me with understanding the standards, there's someone there to help me develop and for me to be able to talk through and reflect on my lesson. There's someone there to help me to show me how my students are doing by helping me analyze my data. There's someone to help me there with if I'm struggling with operational sides in my classroom management, things like that. So I think that in turn is the result of what you're seeing today. All those levels of support and experts that are available to our staff. So we're really excited. We are currently in the process of STAR this week, and STAR continues through next week. So it's a very busy time of year for all of the state schools right now. The STAR testing and getting that organized and sent off and finalized. Any questions about the data? All right, the next thing is our Longview Board parent election. I'll let Jama talk a little bit about this, but before we do, go ahead.
The letter went out to the parents of the Longview campus. Each year, one of our parent positions becomes available. We kind of do like a rotation. So last year was Kenner was elected, and the year before that was Rodriguez. And so this next year, all of his position at Longview is up for election. And so a letter went out to parents asking for nominations. And so those are due tomorrow. And then starting next week, on Monday, we will announce those who have been nominated and will be on the ballot. And then I think they're going to do a meet and greet is the plan on their campus. And then the election will start the following Monday, and it'll be like an online. It goes out as like a kind of a survey to all of the emails of all the parents and guardians of Longview students, and they have basically a week to cast their vote via that survey. It only allows them to vote once based on their email address, and then we will announce it ends at noon on Friday, and we will announce the winner that afternoon via Skyler's message. And then they will be sworn in and begin in July.
Mr. Alders does have an opportunity to run again. So.
I will be.
All right, wonderful. I hadn't had a chance to just ask you. I know that we did through email, but glad to hear that you've chosen to run again. Pretty exciting. He's done a great job. So
a reminder will go out this afternoon. We're done here, just reminding for the last call of nominations. So they are.
Thank you for that. The last item is administrative updates. I usually just include this in case there's something that I haven't shared or anything that the board would like for me to put on the next board agenda, or anything that has been addressed that maybe you want for further clarification on.
Okay, so it is, are there any questions or anything else? It's 1:44. We'll adjourn if we have a motion to
I'll
adjourn.
make that motion.
Motion to adjourn the meeting. Second. I think we can say that we've adjourned at 1:44 p.m. Thank you.